doing this. So I'm just going to get the interface up for the live streams. That way I can see the comments on the screen as well as yep. Oh, shit, close the wrong tab. Hang on a second. Just give me a minute and I'll be able to see the comments on both screens. Alright, Berg. Alright, Justin. I'm hoping, normally sometimes when I do these, it actually sends them out properly. So, I'm hoping, I'm just going to set the settings up on here because annoyingly you can't save the settings between the mobile and PC. So if you do the stream on one, it keeps the same settings on both, which is quite annoying. So yeah, thought I'd show off this Chinese gas mask again. Also got the Mr. Bones Worldwide t-shirt on. Yeah, this is actually a really nice one. All right, Rajiv. Now, again, don't know how well you're going to hear me with the phone's inbuilt microphone. Yeah, afternoon, I guess, by 10 minutes with this mask on. But yeah, like I said, this is actually a really nice mask. It's one of the sort of Chinese industrial ones you can buy fairly cheap, brand new. And before I forget, I'll go get it. I ended up buying a second one of these, even though, you know, yeah, I quite like the fluorescent orange on gas masks. I did get another 4-sheeder before they, you know, dry up on the surplus market. So The Last of Us, for Rajiv, The Last of Us Part 2 mask that Abby has, and the type she gives to Lev as well. No, does she give a mask like this to Lev, or does she give him a different mask? I can't remember. But the one Abby has, anyway. Although, again, this is the civilian version like the other one I've got. It's not the military one, so it doesn't have the drinking tube on it. Otherwise, it's exactly the same mask. The military one as well might let you swap the side of the filter, I'm not sure. GP5 is absolutely fine to wear without the filter. The mask itself is not dangerous at all. It's the old Soviet filters that had asbestos in and, like, you know, questionable other stuff. But yeah, I'll just put this mask on a moment so you can see this mask. I'll swap the filter over, actually. As you can see, this mask pressurizes absolutely fine. Yeah, like I was saying, this Chinese mask is actually very good quality. Because again, Chinese stuff seems to generally be getting better and better for that sort of stuff. So yeah, like I said, this was, I gave the link to where I got this one in the video description. But, oh yeah, and there you go, Rajiv, the other mask that half of the characters wear as well, the sort of S10/FM12, whichever. Because like I said, a lot of the in-game variants are kind of weird hybrids between both of the masks, rather than being one or the other. But there you go, that's, so if you put these two next to each other, maybe I should do a short on that gas mask of Last of Us 2 and put all of the real masks in the video. Cheeky Breeky of Damke says, I can't see, Lord Alcatraz, because again, the problem is I've not got my glasses on if I'm putting gas masks on. So, anyway, let's put that one down there. Because this one is brand new old surplus, it's still got the face form in it, so I don't want to lose this. So this is just a bit of plastic that's designed to keep the mask at a sort of right shape and prevent it being crushed in storage. As you can see, I've not even worn this one yet. It's completely got like no dandruff or any bollocks in it. So there we go. Again, the thing I think is really good with this mask is how good the face seal is, because you can see it almost touching cups to my face. There we go, nearly suffocating myself there because I left the blanking plug in. Whoops. But yeah, it makes a very good seal without me even tightening the straps on this mask, because that's what I really like with this mask, is how good the like actual facial cup is on the rubber. It's very, very rare you can get a mask with you know, doing stuff like that, a seal like that. But anyway, let's put the filter back in to protect myself from hay fever. This particular mask is the Forshida, so it's Swedish. These are like Swedish civil defense mask from the 1990s. The army has a variant of it called the Ski Mask 90, but I don't know if they're replacing that now or something more modern. This is quite hard to get the filters in at an angle though. There we go, I think that's starting to turn. Yep, there we go. Let's see what that person said that Rajiv got rid of. Hang on a second. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. But yeah, one of those usual losers that comes on. Yeah, the funny thing is one of the girls I went out with in, like, what do you call it? Not secondary school, like sixth form. She found masks interesting because she was like one of those artsy sort of girls. Am I preparing for the apocalypse? No. As in, I have basic prepping sort of stuff, but a lot of the stuff I just collect because I find it interesting. But yeah, like I said, the weird thing with the Forshidas is, yeah, this is the best mask out of any of the masks I've ever used. In terms of, like I said, chin seal, as in it like forms to my face so well without me even needing to tighten the straps that much. I will not comment any further, Rajiv, on previous. Like I said, I'm not. Sadly, I'm not with her anymore, which is a shame. But you know, she was a very nice girl. Like I said, I'm not one of those people that has those weird incel type grudges of, if she's not with me, she doesn't deserve to live type people. You know, not one of those weirdo type people. But yeah. But like I said, yeah, the Forshida, as like I said, it's just got such a nice chin cup in this mask. It's kind of a hard thing to explain. Again, the sunlight, it's hard to get directly into the thing. But yeah, the chin cup on the Forshida, I don't know why, it's just better than loads and loads of other masks I've ever used. As in, you know, like the actual bit which forms around your chin. It's really hard to explain, but you don't need to tighten the straps very much. It kind of almost just makes a weld to your face. Like I said, because with obviously a lot of masks, you have to just tighten the mask until you know, you get a seal through almost brute force. The rubber is so good in this mask that you know, with very light, you know, without much tightening of the straps on the Forshida, it just kind of morphs your chin. I mean, obviously, if you have a weird shaped chin, like a Bogdanov chin, probably wouldn't work at all with this mask. A dumpy. I'm from the UK, as in England, Free Fire, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, it depends what country you're in, though, Burb. But for the most part, a realistic apocalypse loadout would actually just be having lots of like water filters, bottles of water, you know, stuff like that, and actually, you know, canned food or like sealed food. You know, as in like as much as you would want some stuff to defend yourself, I think a lot of the time, you know, when people think about the apocalypse things, they don't think about food or water very much. They're just like, oh yeah, I've just got all these guns and all this hammer. It's like, yeah, that's great, but what are you going to eat? But yeah, as Rajiv says, 12:18 p.m. That's the point. When I started the stream, I was going to time it on my watch, and I only just remember to do it now. But yeah, so as I was like saying, this particular Chinese mask, was put that one back before Sheila and get the Chinese mask. What I'm actually just going to do as well is, before I put this away, I'm going to put the face form back in it, just for the sake of keeping it nice and like I said, keeping it to shape, because I don't want it to get crushed. Yeah, like I said, this is a good mask. I was pretty surprised by this. Get those, probably get those a bit tighter, so it might, you know, take the weight off the filter. What's Where's Law 80? I don't know what you mean. Where's war 80? You want about a light anti-tank weapon, that sort of war. Now, can I get this filter immediately? One thing I do like with masks where the filter's in this position in your face is it is much easier normally to just screw a filter on. Although this is a ghost filter, so you might notice there's a bit of air leakage around it. Because when I had the NATO filter, it was fine, but yeah. But like I was saying, Burb, for realistic stuff, you just want like food and water purification. Obviously, if you're somewhere like you're in the US where you can have guns, you actually probably want a gun in terms of you probably want them to protect you and your family from other people. But again, it's the people who just obsess about nothing but guns and ammo, haven't really thought about eating or drinking, anything. Because unless you're going to cannibalize absolutely everybody and drink their blood instead of water, just simply having guns and ammo isn't really going to help you. Yeah, that's a Chinese one. It's that pretty damn good Chinese one. The thing is, Burp, I'll take this off just so how's my voice is going a bit at the moment. I don't want to talk really loud, and if I have my glasses on, I can read your comments better. But like I said, the problem is with crossbows is it's a bit of a myth with bows and arrows and crossbows. You can reuse the ammo. Because as soon as you miss a target and your arrow goes into something, not particularly soft, as soon as your like arrow hits something too hard or hits something at a weird angle, the arrow will get bent or shattered and it's useless. So, and you also have to account for the fact you're probably going to lose a load of arrows if you shoot them and don't see exactly where they went. Because, in real life, unless you're shooting at, down an archery range where you know exactly where the arrows are going, it's quite easy for one to just zip off somewhere. I thought it was crayons and the stuff they put in the, like the claymore mines where they had to specifically say, like, the plastic in C4 is not for eating. Yeah, crossbow bolts and arrow, and, arrows from a bow with the right tips on them, like a bodkin-style tip, goes straight through Kevlar and a lot of other soft body armors, because where they're designed against bullets that crush through stuff, they're not designed against something really sharp that's going really sort of fast and flat. So again, like I said, although I've got several crossbows, quite a few. With YouTube policies, I probably can't even show crossbows on the stream anymore. If you watch some of my old videos, you can see a load of my crossbow videos shooting various targets. Although I might do an air rifle video next week because apparently my next door neighbour is on holiday for once. So it means I can go out in the garden and like plink some cans or whatever and not have somebody harass me. So I'm quite looking forward to that. So yeah, Monday or Tuesday, if the weather's all right, I might head out and because at the moment I've got a load of air rifles that I'm kind of being lent or I'm looking after, if that makes sense. And I'm allowed to shoot them. But one of my mates, where he's moved out from his parents' house and he doesn't really want to keep air rifles where he's renting, he's just said to me, could I look after his air rifles? And if I want to shoot them, just don't drop them, don't do anything stupid with them, But he trusts me to do it and doesn't want to, rent somewhere to do it. So, yeah, one of the guns is a really nice air arms Springer, as in, like the air rifles that cost like $50,000 each. So that one I do really want to shoot. It's just last time my neighbour was on holiday, annoyingly, was when I realised it was 177. I couldn't find any of my 177 pellets, that particular air gun. So I bought some really high quality 177 pellets to test a bit. I like military vehicles, but obviously don't own any or drive any because in the UK, again, I need to get a car again at some point soon. But the problem is with military vehicles is obviously just the amount of fuel that they go through and stuff like that. As much as I would love a Humber Pig or something as my vehicle, because that way, lightly armoured sort of four-wheel truck, that way, you've got massive storage space in the back because it's an APC. It's wheeled, not tracked, so you can drive it on normal roads easily. I'd love a fucking Humber Pig, a bit like a BTR 152, that kind of thing. I'd love one of those, but the problem is obviously
even if you got one, it's spare parts to keep them running because they're obviously obsolete military vehicles. It's going to be even harder than commercial cars, and that was the problem with my last car, was that just couldn't get the spare parts for repair on it. And it's just, yeah, the fuel, considering how much fuel costs, and I'm in the UK, not the US, where fuel is actually cheap. Yeah, I don't like the idea of that, you know, I'd have to fill it up every week and then I'd be paying nearly £100 per week to keep it on the road. Is that the loaf? I don't know about looking it up. UAZ469, let's have a look. Oh no, that's the, yeah, that's like the Jeep equivalent, isn't it? The Soviet Jeep. I like the loaf, you know, like the one you see getting blown up constantly in Ukraine, the Bachanka or whatever it's called. But yeah, that UAZ car is nice. But yeah, like I said, I like the Bachanka or whatever it's called. They're like BW hippie van looking thing. Yeah, Bachanka or loaf, because it looks like a loaf. Yeah. Apparently they were really popular before the war as a military not even a military export, just sold to like civilians in other countries. And then Russia obviously stopped that because of nobody trading with Russia once the war began. And the fact that they desperately need all the Buchankins for their meat waves. But yeah, so apparently in some countries they were really popular because, you know, they were like a third of the price of a VW hippie camper van, even though they're basically the exact same thing. Wow, Shakib, I mean, if you're out in public, it depends, because if you're in the UK, you're not legally allowed to carry much on you. Again, like I said before, something like a stab-proof vest, cheers, contractor, other than my voice going, because again, the problem is at the moment that because the pollen count's high with hay fever this year, for basically every day in a row recently, even when I've taken antihistamines, I wake up every morning with a sore throat and like itchy eyes. So I wake up every morning with a bad throat. My throat's a lot better than it was a week ago. It's taking ages to get better because quite often there'll be another high pollen day, even with antihistamines, where I'm coughing and sneezing a lot. Yeah, I suppose you could replace the engine, though, couldn't you, with a better engine, like a better fuel injection engine? Yeah, everybody in the UK drives on the left side of the road, and the steering wheel is on the right side. So the driver's seat on a UK car is the front right position, not the front left position, like it is in a US car. Yeah, so I've got my aircon running over there. Like I said, the air conditioning is one of those fucking investments I do not regret at all. You know, they're expensive. They're like 300, 400 quid for an aircon wheelie unit. Yeah, I think pit bulls are banned over here, aren't they, Rajiv? But they were banned a long time before Bully XLs were. And just Bully XLs are pretty similar to pit bulls. Yeah, because even though I'm somebody that, you know, likes animals and I volunteer at an animal shelter, I do not like Bully XLs and pit bulls. You know, they're kind of a dog that shouldn't have been breeded into existence, in the sense that they were bred specifically for like pit fighting and stuff like that. And that's why, you know, when people own them, that often that instinct takes over to just maul something to death. So yeah, like I was saying, the only thing I can legally suggest, and again, is the stab-proof vest. But again, a lot of the time, the dog goes for your arms, legs, or neck, so you're not going to even be protected really by a stab-proof vest. Some of the ones with the neck guards might, but again, it's just it's just a dodgy thing of there's not much because you can't even legally carry pepper spray in the UK. There's really fuck all you can do to defend yourself from a dodgy dog, you know, and that's the problem. And thank you again, the contractor, for renewing your membership. Annoyingly, with YouTube membership for me, it's broken on nearly every other channel I used to be a member of. So some channels I've gone and support them through Patreon. But yeah, like, because I was having a thing where YouTube would bill me, but then I wouldn't get my members thing. So like, I don't think the person was getting any of my money that I was saying. YouTube was taking all of it. No, annoyingly, Burb, that's one of the really stupid things over here, right? So pepper spray in the UK has the same rules about it as if you were illegally carrying a pistol. So you'd get the same amount of time. It's called a Section 5 firearm because of the retards that made the laws over here. So if I was to illegally carry like a revolver or a pistol on me that I could not legally own at all, that would have the same prison sentence or whatever for carrying pepper spray or a taser. So yeah, it's a really, really stupid rule. So especially for like women that wouldn't be able to defend themselves very well, or like disabled people, they can't carry pepper spray or a taser. It's the same rules as owning like an illegal like revolver or something on your person. What about the World War II German gas masks? The only German gas mask I can get it down, because it's in this room I've got that's actually in all right condition but not good, is my GM30. Was it GM38? Sorry, GM38. Well, oh wait, no, I've got the World War II Civil Defence gas mask. I can't get them handily. Right, can I reach this over all the clutter in my room? Ugh. That's just knocked my air purifier over. We'll get that back over thing, but yeah. This is the only good German military mask I've got from World War II. And again, this isn't in a usable condition. I just have it as a wall display because it's already broken. But yeah, my German World War II civilian masks, other than, what was it, the VM44 or their last ditch sort of Volkstrom civil defense mask. But my VM37 and VM40 are in really good condition. And they even have the dodgy stamp I can't show on YouTube in good condition anymore, with an eagle sitting above a little squiggly symbol. But that little symbol can get your videos taken down on YouTube now. So I'm not allowed to show iron crosses or anything like that, because apparently I'm glorifying, you know, the Austrian painter's ideology, even though I think he's a complete fucking cunt. I just find the history of the stuff interesting. Yeah, some sort of walking stick contractor, like a bit like a shillelagh, yeah, like the Irish beating stick sort of thing. I don't actually know much about that, Handy. Like, I know that there's non-conspiratorial stuff like that going on, as in it's not a conspiracy theory, but I haven't read too much into it. So is it like a HARP type thing they're doing it? Because I heard there was a thing that also to do something with sunlight that was actually on the BBC, you know, not on some dodgy, the 5G masks are going to kill me kind of website. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, in Hungary you get masks that look really similar to these. Let me look up the name of it. I can't remember the name. Is it like the Hungarian 75M or the 69M? 1 second. I'm seeing if on the gas mask and respirator wiki they have a page of Hungarian gas masks. Good, they do. Because there's a civil defense one that isn't the really common one, like the 75M or 74M, whatever it's called, that I have. But there's one is common enough that, you know, it's a really good stand-in for a World War II German mask. All right, the 70M is the PMG I've got behind me, and the 75M is the plasticky sort of German World War II mask. I think it's the 67M I'm thinking of. Yeah, this is the one. So if I link this, just so you can have a look what I'm talking about. This is the Hungarian mask that is pretty damn close to a GM38. It's not exactly the same, but like you could use it as a stand-in pretty accurately as like a film prop for sort of a GM38, because although it's got the Russian metal valve assembly like a GP5 has at the bottom, otherwise it looks pretty much damn like a sort of GM30. Yeah, I've actually got a Hungarian PMG right behind me, funnily enough. You can tell it's a Hungarian one because it's got the different sort of exhale cover. I know you can swap those around than the normal PMGs have, the voice diaphragm. And it's not got Cyrillic on the side. If there's any text, it's got, this one just has the 5 on it. But yeah, some with the Soviet ones, sometimes there's a little bit of text in Cyrillic on the side, whereas the Hungarian ones, you know, don't, because obviously Hungary, as far as I'm aware, uses the normal Latin alphabet, not I am 31 now. In October, I'll be 32. Ah, that's interesting, Rajiv. Right, I'm going to put this one back on the wall before I lose it or whatever. Although it's going to be harder to put this back up on the wall than it was to get it down. because like I said, it's in a particular corner of the room where I've got loads of stuff stored away. Actually, I'm just going to put it on my piano for now. But yeah, it's in a particular corner of the room I can't get at easily, which is the problem. So as in, there's just so much stuff stored in piles over there that I'd have to take, like, any of the guns which I'm not allowed to show on a live stream out from the corner first, then I can pick apart the boxes, then you can stand in that corner sort of thing. Oh, that's pretty cool. You can still get the GM30s, yeah. I've got a 75M, I've not got the 67M. But yeah, I'm going to get round to, like I said, in the next week or so, doing some reviews on some of those other AliExpress masks. I've got the Denix revolver, can't show it on the stream, but the thing I've got that I like more than that Denix revolver is that Pieta blank firing one of the same, CSA Griswold. That's really nice, the blank firing one. I need to use that a bit more. But yeah. Let's see what the M3 hood looks like. US M3 hood. Is that the hood for the M17's chemical hood? Or is the M3 the one? Because looking at the M3 hood, it looks like the one for the M9A1. But the M17's hood, I think, fits on the Polish MP4, but won't fit on any of the other commie block versions of the M17. I think it's just because the Polish MP4, at least some variants of it, are so close to the original M17 in dimensions, it works. But yeah, so for example, like the Czech M10, the US hood doesn't fit on that, and the M10's specific chemical hoods won't fit on the M17. Annoyingly, because I'm on YouTube, I can't tell you the site, but if you're in the UK, what you can do, because I don't think Google has a thing against this, is if you Google UK blank fire revolvers. Let's see if I can find the site. And there's one a couple down that the top line says full size side venting Western revolvers in 380 9mm caliber. No license required in the UK. And they're the ones that look really good because they're made by Pieta, who make actual guns, do the actual Wild West revolvers for the US market and stuff like that, and UK black powder market. But they do the ones that take the blank 380 cartridges. Yeah, obviously you're looking at more like 400 quid for one of those because it is literally a gun spec gun. It's just a block barrel with a side vent on the blank firer. But yeah, that's really nice. But currently, again, the only thing I'd warn you about with that though is because of how they had a ship fit over the Turkish blank firers for no reason. I would say just be careful if you spend a load of money on a blank firer, just in case later on they make an arbitrary law change and then they say, "Oh, that gun you spent 500 quid on, we're not doing a buyback and we're taking it from you." Bye. I just warn you about that. Because like I said, I'm still pissed off about that thing where they didn't even do a fucking buyback on the blank firers I had. And because I did YouTube videos, and it had obviously been proved I own them, I couldn't then say, "Oh, I don't have them anymore," I'll go for the comments in order. Deputy A1 says, "I got a Shums a while back, and you're 100% right about how good it is. Best field of view." Yeah, it's just because the things are so close to the eyes, isn't it? And you can also use binoculars and scopes with it. Again, like I said, it's not very big optical lenses, but at least because they're so close to your eye, you do get an alright field of view that way. And Haraz says, "What's the date listed on your PMG guest list?" What, that Hungarian, not PMG, the 70M or whatever it's called. This is the date, not the size. This is from, funnily enough, 1991. But that probably is not going to be visible on Let me put my finger under where it says 1991, so maybe it'll focus. But yeah, this is 1991, this Hungarian one, so built right at the end of communism. But yeah, these are even smaller than the Soviet ones. So, but annoyingly, a size 5 of these is slightly too big for me. The size 3 I've got is too small. So ideally, I'd want the size 4 in the Hungarian version, the PMG. But all of those were sold out because I think everybody else probably has a similar head size, and that's the most popular size. No, Louis, this is not this type of stream. I think you probably want to be going to Pornhub for those sort of streams. You know, on YouTube. Firstly, that's against the rules, and personally, I'm not into that kind of stuff, especially with gas masks and whatever. I don't collect those for a kink reason. You know, the stuff I'm into is very much not related to gas masks. What is Hoarders? It's called Milsurp. Again, it is a fucking pile of mess, yes, but it is structured mess. As in, I don't just have random fucking newspapers and other random shit. It's all helmets and military gear. And a lot of this stuff I have resold over the years and got money back for. So, you know. Adenix, right, again, with YouTube's fucking policies, I can't tell you, you know, where you can get them from. I got mine from Blades and Bows, which are closed down now. But let me just search into Google, Denix Replicas UK, if you're in the UK anyway. And there's a site free down that I have bought from before, not a Denix thing before, and they sell Denix stuff. So I'm sure they'd sell to you. Although, annoyingly with the Denix stuff, you can't buy any of like the stuff later than Cowboy stuff. Annoyingly, because of unless you have a UCARA or similar, because they have the same rules as airsoft things with the realistic imitation firearms. But there's a lot of sites coming up that are probably fine. I don't know if like some of the sites that sell swords and that sort of stuff, like Night Shop, they might sell them as well. You know, like I said, I can't directly tell you places that sell them, but I have a weird feeling Denix replicas are often on sites that sold actual like swords and armor as well. Well, that's not a real PMG. As I said, it's a Hungarian copy, but it's close enough to a PMG that it is a PMG, really. I'm pretty sure eBay, like nearly all my masks. Let me read your comment on the proper stream. Sorry, Handy Roo, because it's quite small. Though. Oh, are you on about Jack Striker? I know Jack Striker was roughly up in that area. I think Jack Striker either had his account banned or taken down, or he deleted it himself. And I'm sure Jack Striker has a much smaller channel now that he comments on other people's stuff with, but doesn't make his own videos. Because I've said hello to him on like Weapon Collectors streams before. So if you're on Weapon Collector streams and he comes on, he normally says, "Oh, this is Jack" on his account that he uses to comment on. But yeah, I think he probably took his stuff down because he was worried with how draconian a lot of the rules are, that, he didn't want to say something on camera or, be doing something a crossbow and then, have some snowflake report him sort of thing, Can you see a GP5? You luckily can, because I've actually got a GP5 handy. And I'm going to be an idiot and put it on with a Soviet filter, but, don't do this at home, kids. There's asbestos in them filters, but, I know this filter's fairly well intact, so I'm not particularly worried.
But there you go, I've got the GP5 on. You won't hear me speaking very well because there's no voice diaphragm, so it'll be very muffled, but there you go.
Out of interest, is this actually the GP5 or is this a Shum 41? I think, is that Shum 41? Hang on. I have a weird feeling this might actually be a Shum 41, not a GP5. But I don't have the two masks next to each other to compare. Because it's just, I'm thinking about, that looks more brown than green to me. And it looks like the longer, I'm pretty sure it's a Shum 41, not a GP5. Because, yeah, you can tell it's a different colour between the filter, can't you, and the metal bit there. Yeah, they're basically exactly the same as a PMG, aren't they, Monica? Like I said, for all, as much as it, matters, they are, for all intents and purposes, they are a, something I'll do just on the stream a minute. because, like I said, my next door neighbour's on holiday as far as I'm aware, so I don't mind making some noise. Hang on a second. What's going on? I didn't get this today. I won't repeatedly do that because it is probably going to be loud and annoying for people if they can hear it like 2 houses away. It's kind of like when I'm doing the blank firing stuff, I always wait till there's nobody in, in the 2 next door houses, so I don't get any noise complaints. Because people go, oh, how can you shoot that inside? You'll get done. It's like, no, you can legally shoot them inside. It's just don't do it if you're going to get a noise complaint. So if you're in a block of flats, you could probably never shoot a blank firer because you're probably always going to have somebody in, like adjoining sort of properties, if you like. But where I live, I'm directly attached to one house that side, so that's the one I won't do anything loud if my neighbour's in to not be a dickhead kind of thing. And yeah, so like with the blank firers, that's what I do with those. Is I'll basically, before using a blank fire, I'll check if people are out in both houses on either side of me next door, and then I close up enough doors inside the house. You won't really get enough sound bleedage from a blank firer to be noticeable. Sometimes it just sounds like somebody using a hammer. Sometimes if you're a couple of rooms away, you just get more of a sort of noise rather than the really loud bang. Like if you used it outside, you get the proper bang, like the echoing that you're sort of familiar with firearms. Again, I think people are surprised sometimes that as much as a blank fire will permanently damage your hearing if you shoot it without ear protection on while you're right next to it, when you're a few rooms away in a house and there's closed doors and a bit of insulation in the walls, it doesn't really sound like gunshots anymore. It just sounds like somebody banging a hammer. You don't need licenses for deactivated guns, no. Just don't do anything stupid with them. Again, sadly, I can't show any of you, even though I've got loads in this room on YouTube because they're YouTube policies now. But with there is actually a deactivated Strela behind me. I think, see over the East German mannequin's shoulder, that's a Strela. And because it's so unidentifiable, I don't think YouTube cares in the background of that. But that's the back end of a Strela tube. Yeah, with DEAC weapons, it's basically just don't do anything fucking stupid with them is basically the logic with them. You can buy them without any license and all that sort of stuff. You just have to be over 18. The only annoying thing with DEACs is if they change the rules further on DEACs, like they've done a few times, you can normally always keep your DEACs, but then you can't legally sell them without getting them re-deactivated. So the annoying thing with a DEAC is even if you buy a DEAC and it goes up in price over the years, like the SLR I've got, if I was to sell that nowadays, I'd probably get £1,000 for it, where I paid like 300, 400 quid for the SLR. But I'd have to send it off to be deactivated first, which would cost maybe £100, £200. So then, I wouldn't be making as much of a profit on it if I ever did that. And if you've got really cheap DEAC guns, like some DEAC shotguns, it's just not worth doing at all. Which is why a lot of people do face-to-face sales with them, and the other person just pretends they bought it prior to like the rules changing. Because again, with lots of things like this, there's legal face-to-face sales where the same checks aren't done on things, as with where you can still legally do a sale, or like you shouldn't legally be able to do it, but because nobody's going to be able to check the records, and go back in time, there's no way of proving anything. Well, the problem, I wouldn't want to move to the USA now with all the things Trump's doing. And like I said to people before, Trump in his first term, I did not give a shit about. I thought there was a lot of hysteria around Trump in his first term, as in like I couldn't care less sort of thing. But now, now Trump's doing all of these things that are fucking over the constitutions. Oh, how do they change these sort of DEACs? But now Trump's doing lots of constitutional damage, and all of the stuff where I wouldn't even want to go there on holiday, where like tourists are getting stopped at like airport security and being held for hours and hours and hours. So as well as all the tariff stuff damaging the US economy that way, he's damaging their tourist economy massively now as well. Maybe in a few years, if you get a sensible either Democrat or Republican president, I'll come to the US, because I want to go to the US. It's just I do not want to do it under Trump. The US Constitution is famous all over the world Obi, it is one of those things where everybody mostly knows about the US Constitution, because at one point it was considered a very good thing for civil liberties for the people living in said country. Now, you know, First Amendment, freedom of speech, Second Amendment, right to bear arms, which is why I'm very familiar with it. You know, I wouldn't be able to tell you lots of the later numbers in the Constitution, like the right to remain silent and all those. But a lot of it is being eroded, and that's why you're going into a constitutional crisis there now, where the Supreme Court's ruled against Trump, and he seems to be ignoring it. But I don't want this stream to turn into a fucking politics stream. Speaking of politics, if we do bring up politics, Reform now has a fucking 153 councillors. In second place is the Tories on 61. So, yeah, the UK's had a lot of shake-up with our stuff. Oh, notice when I put a screen on as a white background, how much better the room is lit up. But because YouTube, I can't keep dark mode on for YouTube normally while on the streaming interface. Michael said hi, and we said hello to Michael. Yeah, don't forget to like the stream, as Rajiv said. It does sometimes help them get shared. And again, the funny thing is, when I do a stream like this, using this mode, YouTube shares them to people, because I actually always get people on and talking. When I do my normal streams, if I'm playing a game or whatever, you know, that type of stream, it never shares them. That's East German, as in DDR, National Volksarmee, so Commie Germany. Commie German tunic, Commie German hat, and an MM1 gas mask, which was one of the ones the commies had. His trousers are on a separate bit of the mannequin in the other bit of the background, but there's not enough room for that mannequin to stand up there without toppling over, because it doesn't have very good legs. That mannequin, you have to, and you might be able to see, he's not being strangled there, but he does have some paracord around his neck attached to that Strela in the background, because it sort of keeps him upright. No, I've only got the Czech CM4 without the drinking tube. Annoyingly, as much as I like the look of the Czech CM4 and I find it comfortable, it just doesn't fit my face shape very well. Like where I was saying about how the Forshida gives, it really, really well fits my face, as in I'd barely have to tighten the straps and it will stay on because it sort of suction cups to my face. The CM4 is one where like my jaw shape always seems to make little leakage areas around that bit and that bit. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I like to check CM4, but it's not really a mask I'd bother with. Weirdly, the CM3 fits me fine, but not the CM4. The CM4 is just one where it just, the contours of my face don't fit the mask shape. And that isn't a sizing thing. It's just like, you know, like how the mask kind of is shaped around that bit of the thing. Ah, Filipino knife fighting. I don't know much about Filipino knife fighting, but I assume you're familiar with, what's his name? The Fairburn Sykes thing, where they studied all of the, like, knife fighting in sort of Oriental countries, sort of East Asian countries, bits of Asia, for when the FS knife was designed. No, I do reenactments if there was stuff near me where people do reenactments, but sadly there's not. You know, in some parts of the UK where there's like castles really close to bits, you get a lot of medieval reenactors and things, or you know, like red coats or Napoleonic era reenacting. But where I am now, I just collect stuff because I find it interesting. I do videos on it. That ends up being part of my income, and then a lot of this stuff I can sell on again if I don't want it anymore. USA was #1 top comment, I think, sadly, for the US. I'm saying I don't want to see the US do badly, because I do find the US very cool historically. It's just, I think, at the moment, the US is really kind of struggling a bit. Yeah, at the moment, like I said, again, I think the US does need manufacturing jobs back, but not in the way the tariffs are done. Again, I'm going to fucking politics again. The way the tariffs have just been so applied over everything is going to cause a lot of economic harm, I think, in the next couple of months to the US. Especially where lots of companies can't get parts of making a finished product now in the US. Because I guess Trump didn't realize that, you know, even companies that build stuff in the US don't source all their parts from the US. So now they're getting like 10% plus tariffs on random bits they need to import to make a finished product. That's not good for the US economy at all. Anyway, should we talk about something nice and not politics for the last 15 minutes of the stream while my voice holds out? Gas masks or whatever. But yeah, I need to get another Fairbairn sight. I can't remember where my FS knife is. I didn't see it too long ago, but I haven't seen it in ages. As in, you know, like... Could get my saber out, I suppose. Oh, I got that round the wrong way for gripping there. Let's put it that way. Then I can actually draw it. Because, yeah, YouTube won't let me show guns, but I can hold a sword or like a warhammer or whatever on one of these. But yeah, 1796 saber I really like. The other saber I really like, or cutlass, is the US. I have to look up the number of it. I can't remember, but the US did a cutlass and a saber with the same number designation. And the cutlass I really like, the saber I don't really like, as in, you know, the balance of the saber never feels right to me. But the cutlass is really nicely balanced. Yeah, oh yeah, it is a hair bug, isn't it? Where he turns into Richard O'Brien and then he has hair now and then again. No, I don't have a PRW. Is that the rocket troop gas mask specifically for working around hazardous rocket fuel? Soviet rocket fuel one, but otherwise it's pretty similar to other masks, isn't it? Just a bit more sort of and it's hard to get all that in frame being a big saber. Don't bid until the last few seconds if you're around, but again, people have automated bid sniping software a lot of people use, so yeah, my advice is put an item on your watch list, don't bid on it till right at the last minute, if you possibly can do. But bear in mind that there are people that have like scripted things where it will auto put a bid on like 2 seconds from the thing ending, and then always put your max bid on right at the end, because again, like I said, if somebody else has an auto bid on, it will drive the price up. But I've had a few bids where I've lost out to people using auto bidding software, and then those same people didn't end up actually buying the product. So like sometimes the seller then goes, "You were the second highest bid. Do you want the thing before I take the listing down?" I said, "Yep," and I bought it at whatever price I bid on. Because that happened with some night vision goggles where I bid as high as I could possibly afford to pay for them, you know, at a realistic price for what they were. And then somebody like bid sniped at the end for like £1,000, but then they didn't fucking pay the person for it. So he said, "Yeah, you do want them at, you know, the price you bid up to, you know, or otherwise I'll just delist the sale and have to relist the sale." And yeah, I ended up getting them for that price. But I like the butterfly sword type things, Polywog. Those sort of a butterfly sword's Chinese or are they Filipino? But where you have like 2 short swords sort of things. Yeah, I like the 1796 saber. I'll just put that back in its scabbard. There we go. The other thing I quite like I've got here is, I've shown this before, was the Todd Cutler mace. Because this is actually a much more practical weighted mace than a lot of the really heavy late medieval maces that, you know, are like full steel or iron construction for the entire mace. With these, just having the head made out of steel and a good solid bit of wood for the club makes them a lot more wieldable. Because you'll get tired really quickly if you swing about a really big mace. Because, you know, even though the head is the heaviest bit, because the entire like bit of it is steel going to that, it's just the weight of them is insane for what they are. You know, you'd have to be in really fucking strong, I think, to wield a mace efficiently back in the medieval period. Because a lot of the 2-handed pole arms, even though they weigh more, aren't as bad because you use your body's center of gravity more. But I just do not like how maces swing with regular maces. Warhammers are also cool. Let me get my Warhammer. I think that's in this room, the one Mike made for me. So this is a proper medieval style one. This is just one weapon collector who's a channel, if you're not sub to, you should sub to. Made me one as a birthday gift, I think it was, if I remember right. So he got, I think it was some sort of roofing hammer, did a cross pattern into it, filed it down to make it a lot sharper, reinforced all the handle going to the top of it, so it's now got like a proper sleeve on it, you know, that's stuck onto it. Then did like one of those string wrapped handles. Yeah, it's just a man cave of trinkets. It's, like I said, it's fucking cluttery, so it does come across to a lot of people as hoarding. But yeah, it is full of just radiation detectors and UK legal weapons that I can have, like I said, because, annoyingly, because our gun laws are strict. Otherwise, I do have obsolete firearms, as in guns that are fully fireable. It's just the ammunition is hard to source, so the government doesn't put them on the normal gun list. So that includes things like muskets and, like, you know, bolt actions from the 1880s, 1890s. Oh, what, for warning you about what's in the filters? But yeah, no worries. Like I said, I used to think the GP5 filters were safe, and, you know, as soon as I found out they weren't safe, that was when I just did videos saying they weren't safe. And then I got a load of shit from some people selling them, because the people selling them came after me going like, you're hurting my sales. People want to know what year the filter's from and all that. It's like, well, fuck you for trying to sell people a dodgy product. It's not my fault that, you know, your attitude is that, you know, as long as people don't know there's asbestos in there, I'm fine to sell it. And I had a guy call me a dumbass in the comments. Very, very professional. I am completely insulted now. I'll have to rethink my life. Thank you very much. Replica guns from World War II. If you had a Ucara or similar, any you could own. The problem is without a Ucara, they fall under a weird rule. So you can have deactivated World War II guns, but non-firing replica World War I or World War II guns. You need a Ucara for it. Our fucking systems are so convoluted and weird. But if you get pre-World War I rifles, you can own a fully functioning rifle because a lot of them are obsolete calibers. Like where I've got that Steyr Mannlich or whatever it's called, it's the pre-World War I version of it. And because it's the same rifle but the black powder version of it, like it had the it was lower velocity black powder cartridge, not the later, you know, smokeless cartridge that Austria had in World War I. It's almost the exact same rifle. It's just you know, UK legal without any licenses. Same with Martini Henrys and like I said, the Schmidt Rubin is the best of them because it's a high quality Swiss bolt action rather than Austrian bolt stuck type one. Black powder and lead are not hard to get. Again, like I said, they're in one of those weird things in the UK law where you can own all the components pretty much no issue. It's just don't get caught shooting it if you don't have permission to shoot it sort of thing. But the thing is with obsolete calibers is because of how much work you'd have to go into to load it up to shoot somebody, people never bother. Because at that point, somebody, if they want to kill somebody, is just going to stab them or shoot them with a bow or a crossbow or hit them over the head with a hammer. You know, it's that sort of thing. I don't think you're ever going to get somebody that decides to go on the school shooting type thing, thankfully, by, you know, hand loading shitloads of old ammunition and then doing it. But basically, yeah, calibers that rely on you hand loading are basically the ones that are mostly obsolete calibers because it means that, you know, people can't easily just find somebody smuggling the ammo to them. They actually have to know a bit about firearms, which, you know. And at that point as well, these are the sort of people that are probably going to be making bombs or whatever, you know, not hand loading ammunition. So. I'm glad I got you into it, JJ, unless it's the sort of, why did you get me into it? I'm wasting all my money on it now. That kind of interest. But yeah, like I said, the Warhammer, I think, is a lot more practical than a mace for the most part, because you have the two types of ends on it. You have the bludgeon people end, and you have the go through the soft point in your armor sort of end, you know, where you line it up and you hit them with the pick. And you've got the, like I said, it's a lot more practical weight-wise. You could dual wield it with both hands, you know, or you could swing it pretty effectively with just one hand. So yeah, Warhammers, in my opinion, are definitely better than maces in terms of medieval weapon design. Because, like, you know, you've got the two ends, and both ends work well. The stabby end and the bludgeoning end. So if somebody's wearing a helmet, or you can... Again, the funny thing, because it's not a video game, the stuff that's good for bludgeoning people in plate metal is still good at bludgeoning people without armor on. It will do even more damage. Because if that hits you in the skull without a helmet on, it's going to do even more damage than if you had a helmet on. Yeah, I got my M40 from Germany as well, weirdly. Did the US just leave a load of army bases and then the Germans just resold them? I think you can import the cartridges if you have the right licenses for it, and it has to go through certain postal things, you know, with people able to handle explosives and gunpowder, you know, so it has to be declared as ammunition going through. So then to legally do that, you'd have to do that. But in the UK, like I said, it's the weird thing where to own a load of black powder, I think you need an explosive license that is much easier to get than a firearms license. And yeah, you can buy all the cartridges and the actual bullets and all that without any issue because they're not considered. You can buy, you know, I've got a load of. Do I have any actual full rounds handy to show you? I saw one the other day. Yeah. So, for example, like where I've got a 357 or 44, whatever that is there. That's a 44 Remington. There you go. you could just literally, there's nothing stopping people essentially buying inner ammunition and reloading it. Like I said, the law probably doesn't want you doing that if you don't have a gun license. But like I said, it's one of those things where, for people so inclined, there's lots of things like that. Right, Seska, sorry, I'm gonna, assuming this is a sensible question, I'm actually gonna answer that, because I found a deodorant now that is actually pretty damn good for me, as in, like where I've previously had lots of deodorants that, I just didn't get on with or whatever. I've actually found one that I quite like. So, I think I bought some on Amazon, so let me go back to my purchase history, as in, like, I've tried loads. The problem I have is, because I get eczema, some deodorants just really irritate my skin. So if I go through my Amazon orders, I can actually check for you what brand it was, because I found one that actually, lasts a long time. It's not one of those deodorants that only lasts a few hours, which is the problem with a lot of ones for people with eczema, because they make them really weak. But it's one that actually, I find works for like 12 to 24 hours, as it should do, even if they say it's, I'll actually find it weirdly now on my... here we go. Right Guard. So Right Guard men's deodorant, the roll-on one. It says it lasts 48 hours, but I don't know why you go 48 hours without washing if you're, living a normal life. So it's just the Right Guard roll-on deodorant, and I find that, it's one that's just like little... Annoyingly, they're not in stock on Amazon anymore, so I hope it's not a discontinued type of deodorant. But yeah, they're just the little roll-on ones, and I find one of them lasts you ages. You don't need to cake yourself in the deodorant for it to work. It's not one that has a really strong smell or anything, so it stops you smelling of sweat, but doesn't really have its own smell. And it doesn't upset my skin where I have eczema, so I actually really like it. I don't use spray-ons, because spray-ons, as well as making me cough and upsetting my asthma, I find aren't as efficient economically either. Yeah, and it's not necessarily an officer's uniform, but yeah, East German dress uniform. So yeah, the mannequin is wearing the East German hat, the cap, and the East German jacket, and potentially an East German MM1 gas mask. I know it was in an East German bag, that MM1, when I bought it, so it probably could have been an East German tank crewman's one. So yes, the communist Germany, you will not escape over the wall, or you will be shot. But yeah, East Germany is quite interesting historically, and I find, like, again, I don't like any of those communist dictatorships, but I find their uniforms and weapons are sometimes interesting. But yeah, like I said, the Right Guard one is, I think some of the Old Spice roll-on deodorants were alright, or stick deodorants, whichever they were. It's just I found the Right Guard ones so far have been the ones that have been, for the money, the ones that work well, without being an overpowering smell. Again, some people like having deodorant that's like a perfume. Personally, I don't. Because again, the problem is, like, my asthma and all that, and like hay fever and all that shit, is where sometimes people can literally have even strong perfume on and it upsets my throat or my nose. Yeah, or the surplus if North Korea collapsed, yeah. I'd actually be quite interested in some of their, like, helmets and that sort of shit. Cool, I'll keep that in mind, Seska, if I can't get the Right Guard one anymore. But like I said, the good thing about buying a pack of 6 of those on Amazon not too long ago was that each one lasts quite a long time. So, it's not like it's just 6 weeks worth of deodorant or whatever. You can probably get 3 or 4 months out of 6 of those if you're not doing anything. It's better, but again, Rich, the problem is at the moment, because the pollen count's so high, I have the issue where most of the day I'm alright, but when I go to bed, because the antihistamines will wear off overnight, and I then end up not having my head very elevated, because obviously my head probably slouches down a bit when I'm sleeping. I'll then get, like, if I get a runny nose and itchy nose in the night, any of the snot will go back down my throat, and then give me a sore, like, horrible throat where I'm coughing up phlegm most of the morning anyway. So even if I take an antihistamine like I did last night, right before bed, I find by the time I wake up in the morning, it's worn off, my throat's gotten worse again. It's definitely getting better, day on day. It's just that annoying thing that, it will always go back a bit every morning, even with where I've got a pillow where I can prop my head up a bit, because I'll roll over in my sleep and roll off the pillow. Yeah, but that's like a touristy one, JJ, sold by the North Korean government. as in they sell it as a gift thing to the Chinese. Like, here's our North Korean money. Very nice. I won't do any more racist Asian voices. I wouldn't normally do that, but I felt like doing it for North Korean. I'm not going to do I'm so Ronry, sing all of that, but you know, yeah, I've been on probably an hour now, haven't I? Yet 59 minutes. Yeah. So anyway, I will head off in a minute. I've got a new mouse arriving today because annoyingly, I don't know if it was my mouse that's dying or a Windows update that killed it, but my previous mouse started getting horrible latency issues, you know, where sometimes it would work fine, other times it would just go oot, 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 like the cursor across the screen. So I've had to go to a mouse that's quite a good mouse, but the problem with this mouse is it's one that you don't have to have plugged in, by the way. I've just got plugged in to charge it. It's a mouse that I find the buttons are almost too big for my hands, so I find it's not comfortable for me to grip this mouse. So I've got another slightly smaller gaming style mouse coming. But the issue is, if Windows does an update that balks the drivers and then there's no longer any driver support, then your mouse is dead, because thank you, Windows. Yeah, I've already answered you, Owen. It's not necessarily an officer's uniform, it's an East German dress sort of uniform. Yeah, they can't normally do it very well. It's always, all right, governor, you know, bottle of water or whatever it is, that when people try and take a piss take of the UK one. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I just don't think they do it very well, is a lot of the time is the problem. So it's not so much I'm offended that you're trying to take the piss out of my accent. It's do a better job of taking the piss out of my accent, I think, is, you know, the attitude I normally have towards it. When you see loads of, it's normally just American things, isn't it? Where they're like, oh, that's water, or however they do it. Oh. But yeah. Anyway, I'll head off now. Have a good day, everybody. Like I said, yeah, pollen count's not great today. You said hi, but you also did a spam of letters before that. It's also a funny thing where I think it depends where you're from in the UK, because I think lots of, like, the person just spamming the chat I'm going to block, because stop spamming the chat with random crap, thank you. Probably well over 100, Owen, probably over 150, I don't know anymore. At one point I had a spreadsheet with all of them, you know, and then if I got rid of one I'd remove it from the spreadsheet. When I got one I'd add it to the spreadsheet, but I lost that at one point and I had to reformat Windows, and I could never be asked to do it from the beginning again. So who knows. Count up every video I've done on gas masks, each of an individual mask on YouTube, and then minus a couple where I've got rid of them or they were ones I was lent, and then add a load of ones I've never got around to doing a video on. Can you show your PMG? This isn't a real PMG, but there you go. I'm going off now anyway, but I did show it earlier in stream. This is technically a Hungarian 70M or whatever it's called. This isn't a real PMG, this one. It's a Hungarian licensed copy of the PMG, but there you go. That's a PMG Metrocop mask. Right. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to go off now because I need to have some lunch, actually. I've not really had much to eat yet today. I might finally get around to eating my Easter egg from like a week or two ago, whenever Easter was. If you're 10 years old, I probably use language on this channel that's not appropriate, but I'm glad you enjoy the videos. But yeah, I've still got an Easter egg I haven't even started yet, because when my throat was bad for quite a few days where it was really sore, I didn't want to eat any chocolate in case it upset my throat. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. I will be off soon, but yeah, look, just before I forget, like what JJ was saying about English accents, whatever, British accents, I think a lot of Americans probably think pronunciated English, whatever they call the BBC English, is probably how people here talk. You know, the very welcome to the 10 o'clock news. And that's not actually how people talk over here. There's lots of regional accents, and you know, that pronunciated English, whatever it's called, isn't actually a real thing. It's like a way you have to learn to talk, which was done specifically for news readers so people could understand them clearly. So it's not it's like the US transatlantic accent, like how Vincent Price used to talk. It's not actually like, you know, one of those real accents. People have regional accents depending on where they're from. So if you're up north, you talk like that, but you know, you talk like that if you're up north, like Angela Rayner. But you know, people don't actually, you know, really have the posh voice. It's not how one actually talks. It's put on, you see, for foreigners to enjoy, I guess. So we can colonially lop over you. Anyway, yeah, have a good day, everybody. I'm off. I'm going to eat some Easter egg. I think that I need to get round to eating. When I work out where... Oh, I have to end the stream, don't I, on my phone now, because I'm streaming from my phone. Fuck's sake, I'm getting confused. Right, see ya.